Welcome to 4 Down Territory. I'm AJ Lawrence for Bobby DeMuro, and we are here to talk about 4 topics trending in sports. Bobby, why don't you go ahead and kick us off on the first down?
First down, first topic, about to start here in Russia, the Olympics.
All right.
Our Olympic debate is not going to be about events or medals or teams or anything, but it's going to be more simpler than that. More simpler, something. Who gives a damn about the Olympics? Answer, not us.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Nope.
Why is that?
I think it's come to the point where the Olympics, they're a little bit, antiquated. There's nothing particularly all that interesting. They still have, curling? There are a lot of sports that these certainly are athletes, and they get the opportunity to go out there and show what they have trained for, and it's wonderful and all, but we're just not interested.
Hey, I got to disagree with you on curling. But other than that, I think you're right, and antiquated in the sense that all these athletes, they're world-class, and figuratively, the world is getting smaller. There are tons of professional leagues in tons of sports around the world, and these guys are playing each other, guys and gals, are competing against each other every week, every month, every year, and so this 1 every 4 years notion, it's bullcrap. These guys are playing each other all the time. It's not just that they meet in Russia and they haven't seen each other for 4 years. It's wrong, and this pristine idea of the Olympics, we're overselling it. Now, that being said, are you still going to watch? Do you care about medal count? Do you care about American pride? Are you still going to watch the Olympics, or are you totally just a non-starter?
Well, it might be on in the background, but I'm not going to watch it like I watch the NFL. You know, I like the aspect of the U.S. dominating and showing that it can still throw down and get the most medals. I think that's extremely important to keep others in check. But as far as the actual,
Looking at you, China.
As far as the competition goes, no, it doesn't register.
Now, the other thing I wonder about the Olympics, Lindsey Vonn, Ryan Lochte, Michael Phelps, we know everything about these people's personal lives, and Vonn and Tiger Woods and Michael Phelps smoking marijuana and all this sort of crap that really doesn't actually matter. If we're going to call the Olympics this world event that's beautiful and pristine and the world comes together once every 4 years, my only plea, I guess would be the word for the American media, focus on more than just the American stories. There are plenty of good stories out there. I don't want 15 biographies of Michael Phelps because that's primetime every night. I want to follow a German figure skater and then a Russian gymnast and then a Chinese curl. I don't know. There's other interesting stuff out there, isn't there?
No, absolutely. It kind of gets a little bit old, but you know what? I understand the purpose and the point of showcasing our athletes, but at the same time, it's an opportunity for us to be introduced to the world. So, give us that.
When was the Olympics last relevant? Maybe last question here. I have an answer. I think it was probably Miracle on Ice. Al Michaels making this amazing call. U.S. versus Russia, Cold War, hockey, big upset. And since then, I don't know how many relevant events have there been in the Olympics.
None on my book.
I'm sure we're forgetting something important, but there's a lot of drug issues too, and
absolutely,
there's problems there. All right, well, so the Olympics we hate. I'm sure there's going to be people who disagree with us.
Yeah.
We would love to hear from you, but while you're making those comments and angrily typing at us and stuff, let's move on to second down. Second down, in somewhat a similar vein about drug testing and athletes in a way, the states of Washington and Colorado on January 1, 2014 made marijuana legal. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's essentially what happened in those two states. Everybody kind of knows that. We're going to debate the effect that will have on professional athletes. And as a legal expert, AJ tells me that will have no effect whatsoever.
Yeah, unfortunately, when Colorado passed the law, Amendment 64, it had a little caveat in it that said employers can still penalize, regulate any kind of drug use for their employees, and in the private sector, that's exactly how it goes.
So here's my question, though, because marijuana, at this point in Colorado, looks effectively like a cigarette or a beer, which are legal, as marijuana now is. And I understand that employers can regulate drug use, and the NFL, NBA, and MLB all ban marijuana specifically, but now that it's legal in that state, can they regulate the use of a legal drug? Can they regulate cigarette use too?
Yes, they actually can. Well, it depends what state you're in. There are about 20 states that have passed laws that say that employers can regulate for cigarette use. And so there have been lawsuits in terms of an employee who smoked a cigarette and then tested positive for nicotine. But at the end of the day, if the law allows you to do it, as it does in Colorado, that says employers can still regulate, you're in that position.
Now, I'm asking these questions skeptically. I'm actually on the side of the employers. I'm on the side of the professional sports teams and owners. I think if you are a professional, sports team, you're paying A-level dollars for A-level talent, and you want A-level work. And if you've got a basketball player who's making $2 million, looking at you, J.R. Smith, because I think he might have a drug problem, even though he's in New York, he was in Colorado. If you're going to smoke weed, hey, I think there's a lot of guys who will take that $2 million from you and want to play clean. I mean, tough luck for the players, right?
See, I completely disagree. I think on the side of the player, the individual, for what the state wants in terms of legality. I know it's not legal on the federal level, but the state itself. What's the difference between a player getting, all excited on nicotine or having too much caffeine or, hey, having a Red Bull or getting jacked up on all sorts of things? If you do want the player to give their best product, you let them determine what works best for them.
And I suppose nobody can argue marijuana is a PED in any sense of the word. They're not becoming better players.
No, not at all.
I guess last question, before we move on to third down, do you think that this, and I have a feeling it is, but with athletes specifically, is this sort of ending the stigma of marijuana as a big deal? Because you see a guy, we know J.R. Smith smokes weed, and it's not just him, but I'm talking about all kinds of other athletes. It's not that big of a deal. Who cares if they do? Is this sort of ending that stigma to kind of get past it once and for all?
I think fortunately it's moving in the direction of making marijuana more socially acceptable, which would be good. It's just the unfortunate aspect of it, especially in the NFL and Major League Baseball, is the thought that this is still a drug, and there's the whole reefer craze thought. And as long as those generation of people who still hold tight to that theory, they're not going to move in the direction of making it allowable for players to partake in, unfortunately.
And JR, don't sue me. I'm just bitter because you left the Nuggets, man. Come back. We need a three-point shooter.
Huh?
All right, let's move to third down.
All right, so now we're on third down, and we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL. Now, we know the NFL, they instituted a number of rules in the 2013 season, and some worked and some didn't work. So, Bobby, what do you think? What rules come to mind when you think of ones that did not work so well?
All right, this one's going to hurt your feelings. You ready for this?
Hit me.
Broncos-Patriots, about November 2013. My life almost ended. When Tony Carter inadvertently touched a punt, the Patriots recovered it overtime and won on a field goal. AJ and I got into a physical fight. We've never been the same since. No, I'm just kidding. But that rule, Wes Welker calls everybody off a ball for the Broncos. It's an overtime game between two Hall of Fame quarterbacks, two great teams that are now 1 and 2 seeds in the playoffs. Tony Carter is covering the punt, has no idea where the ball is, and it inadvertently touches him. It's immediately a fumble. Patriots jump on the ball. It's a cheap way to end a football game that's amazing for 5 quarters. I think the rule change here, the solution to me, before you argue that you're this big Patriots fan, the solution to me is the guy has to be going with intent to the ball. So if Welker muffs the punt, that's clearly a fumble. If Carter tries to pick up a bouncing ball that he knows where it is, that's clearly a fumble. The Patriots can recover that. But a ball hitting a guy in the hip or the butt or the head or whatever, and he has no idea where the ball is and it touches him, that's completely arbitrary. The ball should be dead there. It should have been Broncos ball. I don't want to see a great game ended on a cheap ticky-tack play.
All right, now my turn. I completely disagree because they pay him enough to know where the ball is. There is no question. It's a big field and you got one thing to look out for. It was the ball. So as far as I'm concerned, it hit him, and now he needs to suffer the consequences. That rule is perfect the way it is, and if we get into intent, we're going to have to, have the whole question of the Mike Tomlin. Did he mean it? Did he intend it? How did he look? Was he looking at the ball? Did he jump in? Did he jump out? Was he two-stepping? We don't know. We don't want to get into the intent debate. So how about we just pay you to know where the ball is, and you know where it is.
Something tells me AJ's answer would be different if the Broncos had won and the Patriots had lost. But what about you? What's your rule that you want to change?
Well, I actually want to change the blackout rule. We got to see here as we moved into the postseason that we had, 4 teams that were struggling to be able to sell out their stadiums or to even get enough people to attend. That was very problematic, especially in this economy, how much ticket prices are. Plus, you had these teams that have been, cheered for all year long by great fans, and the fact that there was a possibility they wouldn't be able to see their teams make the postseason because they couldn't afford the tickets. Unfortunately, the games did air, so that worked out well. But at the end of the day, I think they need to ease up on the blackout rule and just let us enjoy the games regardless of who's able to attend or not.
Otherwise, Jacksonville will never again see a football game. I'll add an addendum to that rule, too. When the major media market team plays in that market, the Patriots in Boston, the Broncos in Denver, whomever, every other game in Denver is blacked out. You can only watch the Broncos. I get it. I understand what they're doing. I just wish you could see another game. If you have the CBS game, also have the Fox game. I don't know. My second rule, this is really specific, but we like this one. We're in agreement on this one.
I think we are.
The San Diego Chargers were 8-7 heading into Week 17. The Dolphins lost. The Ravens lost. We don't need to rehash it. It happened. But the Chargers win, and they're in the playoffs. However, they could have also tied their way in the playoffs against the Chiefs in Week 17, and they almost did because the game went to overtime. I propose a rule in the NFL, and I understand how ties work. I understand how tiebreakers work. It helped the Packers earlier in the year. But in Week 17, the last week of the season, if it comes down to a tie, you cannot tie your way into the playoffs. You must win the game. The Chargers won it, so it worked out fine. But you have to win that game. If they had tied the Chiefs, they should have sent the Steelers in the playoffs. You can't tie your way in.
No, absolutely. It gives you no true incentive to kind of actually play and give us a good game. They set in their, second linemen just to go ahead and go in there. It wasn't cute at all, and it didn't give any kind of competition. So, no, I absolutely agree.
Fist bump.
There we go.
There we go. All right, 4th down time, unless you have another rule.
Oh, no, it's all right. Let's move to 4th down because I just won $100 million in the lottery, if not more. As much as I need to buy myself a franchise team, who would I buy?
I already know.
I would buy the New England Patriots, without a question. They're a solid franchise. We know football's not going to go anywhere. Robert Kraft has been excellent. He is the CEO, the chairman, the owner. He's got all of those spaces filled that I am going to happily take from him. And we have de facto general manager, Bill Belichick, also head coach, the winningest coach in the NFL. He's 61 now. I know I can get at least another 7-8 years out of him, if not more, because we know he lives and breathes Patriots football. And also they were, $408 million in revenue in 2012. They're the second most profitable team, or NFL team for that matter, in 2013. I'm proud to be, a New England Patriot girl, and I would love to slap my name on it, especially since their fans have been selling out tickets to their games since 1994.
I was barely born in 1994. Here's an important question, though. I'm kidding, 86. Here's an important question, though. Will you buy Belichick a new hoodie?
I could work that into his contract, but it would really depend. I actually want him to go truly kind of the more Darth Vader role and just get him something a little bit longer. Also, I think he's hiding a nice physique under there. Maybe get something a little cute.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I personally think you should incentivize the hoodies.
Uh-huh.
No new hoodie unless you win 15 games. And then the next year, no new hoodie unless you win a Super Bowl.
Oh, well, you know what? I think they're going to do that. Who would you buy?
Well, I'm going to go away from AJ's sentimental pick. She can talk about money and dollars and profits. She just loves the Patriots. She wants to buy the team she loves. If I were doing sentimentally, I'd buy the Colorado Rockies. Just my team. I love baseball. However, I will go for the financial motive, the financial profit motive. And you know who I'm buying?
Who?
Either the Sacramento Kings or the Charlotte Bobcats.
See, I'm from Sacramento, and I do not understand this.
And I'm from Charlotte, and I'm going to explain it to you. Here's how we do it. Okay, in the last 10 years, there are only 5 NBA teams who have lost value. That includes the Kings, the Bobcats, the Pistons, the Timberwolves, and surprisingly, the Indiana Pacers, even though they've been a good team. But every other team has gained value, so I think you buy low, you get the Kings or the Bobcats, and here's why. 41 home games, so more games to profit than the NFL where you only have 8 home games. You've got a smaller payroll because you're only paying 12 players instead of 53 plus a practice squad. You've got a smaller front office and support staff because you've got a smaller roster that you have to pay players for. You've got an arena that you lease or own, but you have other tenants leasing in that arena. If you're the Bobcats at Time Warner Cable Arena in Charlotte, North Carolina, you've also got a minor league hockey team leasing out of that arena. You've got concerts, you've got conventions, you've got high school tournaments, you've got all sorts of meetings, and you can either make money on those if you own your arena, or your lease costs less based on the number of days you're in there, as opposed to a baseball-specific or football-specific stadium. And finally, you've got a luxury tax in the NBA. So if you stay under it, you make millions of dollars back from the teams who have gone over. If you go over it, theoretically you're trying to win, and you're hopefully put more fans in the seats. The NBA is the most global game. It's got the best marketing ground game around the world. Football and baseball do well, but the NBA is all over. I think you'd buy the Charlotte Bobcats or the Sacramento Kings. If I won enough money, I'd buy both.
You know what? You talked a really good game, but at the end of the day, you do not have Darth Vader. And I do.
Well, I'd keep Michael Jordan around. Maybe that's that.
Not too bad at all. Well, that's it we have for you. Thanks for watching 4 Down Territory. I'm AJ Lawrence, Bobby DeMuro. Check us out on Facebook or Twitter. We'd love to hear from you.